Hi everybody, are you getting excited or restless? See what's going to happen next? We are going to chapter 34. So here we go, and welcome back. We go back to school the next day, still stinking of chicken grease. I would care. I think if everything else about the school wasn't so profoundly odd. From the moment I walked through the doors, the whole building feels like it's buckling inward. The new parquet floorboards strangely wrapped or warped. The diagonal pattern of the wood feels like an arrow pointing down, and I feel my knees bending slightly as if the school itself is sinking into its foundations. The rot hits me again. Not just the smell, but a feeling, something that grabs at my gums and reverberates around my mouth. There's a strange pain, the wisdom, teeth coming up. No one is talking to us or each other. The same sense of floating murmuring of people speaking but not full sentences, and not to each other. Everything is so wrong. Fiona looks around, feeling the chill, the dissonance. Is it just exam stress, do you think? The last scraps of hope cling to her and then promptly fall away as our gaze settles on a girl who has bent down to tie her laces on her deck shoes. Only she's not tying the laces, she's tying the air next to them. Jesus, Fi says, holding her own arms, should we not be here? Should we even be here? They won't try anything with this many witnesses, I say, only partially believing it. What else is there to do? We could run, but where would we run to? Also, can you imagine what our parents would say if we skipped our mocks? The mock exams. How is this my life? We file into the hall where our mocks are being held. The desk space apart, mimicking an exam situation. Girls here seem a little more normal. People are talking at least, although there is a deadness to it. Not busy chatter. Maybe it's the hallway, the real heart of the school, that was warped the most. Everyone will be starting the exam at 9:15 sharp. Miss Harris calls authoritatively. We will break at 11:15 for an hour, then resume again at 1. At 3 you'll be free to go home or study as you wish. The same schedule will be resumed tomorrow. Quiet descends over the room, and Miss Harris starts handing out papers, instructing us not to turn them over until she says so. Despite everything, I feel a little quaver of nerves come over me. I know the mocks don't technically count for anything, but it occurs to me that this is the first step towards the end of the school. That pretty soon it will be Christmas holidays, and after that it's a short jump until our real exams and the rest of our lives. Turn over your papers, Miss Harris says, and again I turn over my paper. I do not begin because the paper looks like this. And I turn the page of this book and it's upside down. And what is written upside down? Berlin, Korea, Cuba, USA, foreign policy, and one of the following, and Europa and wider world, topic 6. That is what she sees upside down. I put my hand up. Miss, I say, When Miss Harris doesn't see me right away, she frowns and walks over to my desk. "What is this, Maeve? I have the wrong paper. It's in Russian or something." She peers at my paper, then frowns at me again. "Maeve, I really don't have time for you messing around today." I'm not messing around. But look, the paper is all wrong. Read it. She glances down at it. "Maeve, this is your history paper. I'm sorry if you didn't study properly." "But I did study properly," I protested. "This isn't English." Other girls are starting to stare at me now. "Maeve, you have the exact same paper as everyone else," Miss Harris says. Formidably, I glance over at Fiona and she is still watchful. I take it as a cue. "It's fine," I say, quickly snatching the paper back. "I'm fine, and it's only once I've studied it that I realize the paper actually is in English. It's just backward. It's in mirror writing." I look to Fiona and I see her realizing this too, turning the paper on its side and squinting to read it. Lily, several desks away from me, hasn't even turned her exam paper over. She's just drawing on the blank space. I'm not sure what to do. Seemingly we are the only 3 people who have noticed something is wrong. Everyone else is writing frantically, their heads sent over their papers. I look closer at Kiara Conley, who's sitting on the other side of me, and try to see what exactly she's writing. She lifts her head briefly to cough into her hand, and that's when I see it. She's writing backwards. "Maeve," Miss Harris snaps. Eyes on your own paper." "Sorry," I say, and go back to looking at my blank sheets of answer paper. I try writing because I can't think of anything else. I write my own name, but as I put pen to paper, I can feel my arm curling around the desk, my fingers morphing into a strange claw-like position around the pen. I can't help it. I can't fight it. As the ink touches the paper, a blue ribbon of nonsense smooths out over the clean writing white page. And then I get a sentence. "Maeve," upside down again. Maeve, I think she's writing her name here. Let's have a look, because I've got to turn the book round. "Maeve Chambers," upside down and backwards. "Jesus," I yelped, dropping my pen. "What the—" "Maeve," Miss Harris again. "I will remove you from this exam if I have to. You'll spend every Friday in detention for another term if you are not careful." I catch Fiona's eye and I realize this is exactly what we've been planning for. I sit in my chair and making perfect eye contact with Miss Harris. I place my hands on the edge of the desk and I simply tip the desk over. Immediately, Miss Harris is pulling me out of my seat. I'm pretty sure that teachers aren't supposed to touch students, but Miss Harris and I have been through too much for that by now. She almost pulls my arm out of its sockets and drags me to the door, furiously telling me that I am disrupting the exam for everyone else. I tried to tell myself that Miss Harris would never be this harsh usually, that the well is messing with everyone. Lily smirks at me and I give her an exaggerated shrug back. And, what are you gonna do? Shrug. And at Miss Harris, is shoving me out of the door. I notice that Ciara Connolly handwriting has now slipped off the paper and is being engraved rather heavily into the bones of the desk. I get Friday detention. I start to wonder how I'm going to explain this to my parents, and in particularly how I'm going to have to appear sorry for my actions when they were in fact planned, but explaining things to my parents already feels like an activity from a different lifetime. They will just have to accept it and worry about me, as they always do, and wait for the day that they won't have to worry anymore. The worst part is sitting in the office while she calls them. Purposefully disruptive, she says into the receiver with absolutely no regret for the well-being of or concentration of the other girls. As you know, Miss Chambers, this is not the first run-in I've had with Maeve this school year, and it's one of many infractions committed at St. Bernadette's in her time here. One more strike and she's out, I'm afraid. I would never usually expel a girl during an exam year, but if she continues to be a distraction, well, I nod to myself, thinking fair enough, and hear the dim rattle of my mother's exasperated voice on the other end of the phone. I catch a few words now and then. The ones I pick up on are the ones I've heard before. Used to be such a great girl. Don't know what has got into her. I wonder what would happen if I told my parents everything. Would they believe me? After she gets off the phone, Miss Harris frowns at me. Get out of here, Maeve. I'll allow you to study downstairs until your next exam. And I meant what I said. One more strike and you are out. I know you don't like how the school is being run, I say. I'm not sure why I say it. I just want to show Miss Harris that I'm not a delinquent. I think the new program. She looks at me blankly. I don't know what you are talking about. All this stuff about chastity and all that. I know you hate it. The blank stare continues. And as we hold each other's gaze, I begin to realize that the Miss Harris I overheard complaining to Sister Assumptia about the children has changed. I concentrate and burrow into her mind, expecting a rich, dense landscape of ideas and thoughts and fed up complaints about the ever troublesome Maeve Chambers. But there's nothing, or not nothing, but a shallow, empty trench, a strange, two-dimensional space where all that exists are the words she's saying and how she's saying them. Maeve, she says impatiently, I'll allow you to study downstairs until your next exam. And I meant what I said. One more strike and you are out. Yes, you said that. You said that exactly, those words, in exactly that order, a minute ago. A chill came over me and my eyes moved to the window. It's bright, cold November day, probably the last good day of the year. It's always grim by the time my birthday rolls round. Isn't it a nice day, I say desperately. Blue skies. Miss Harris doesn't even turn her head. Look, I raised my hand, pointing at the autumn cherry tree at the edge of the school's property, their pink blossoms starting to float off into the sky with the wind's rustle. They are lovely, aren't they? Miss Harris remains rooted, her expression unchanged. That feeling of shallowness seems to roll over her and into the room, and I feel as I am not standing in her familiar old office at all, but on a soundstage. Finally she opens her mouth to speak. "And I mean what I said," she repeats. "Once more. One more strike and you are..." Thunk. The sound of something heavy and alive beats so hard against the window that I scream at the shock of it. A magpie, possibly blinded by the sunlight, has flown into its body into the glass. The window, now double glazed since the school's makeover, doesn't break, but a small hole opens up at the other side. I shriek as the bird hurls itself against the glass again. Miss Harris does not react. She is stuck, like a spooked stage actor, on the same line. One more strike. One more strike, and the window is going to shatter. I yell, dashing past her and outside to the magpie. By the time I've circled my way around, the bird has stunned itself into unconsciousness. It is lying on the pavement, its creamy white markings blood spattered from effort, or no, not blood spattered. I peer at its body and see that its white feathers are tipped with tangerine, not rusty like dirt or crimson like blood, but traffic cone orange, penguin classics orange, Fiona orange. This, I realize, is the same magpie that Fiona healed all those weeks ago back at the tennis courts. A little bit of phi is still in its system, just like Nuala said. Someone else's magic changed the colour on you. Another chilly wind came through the trees, and a haze of pink blossoms swept through the air. The bird comes to its senses, ruffles its feathers, and flies off. I tip my fingers with my forehead, not sure if a magic magpie still appreciates formality. Through the bruised window, Miss Harris continues to stand perfectly still. My skin prickles with nausea and a sense that the adult woman who used to be inside there has been forced to vacate her own body. I look to the window of Sister Assumptia's office on the opposite side of the main entrance, and it seems to be a hive of activity. The office that is so normally still in its pale lemon yellow tranquility appears to be full of movement. I make my way to the hexagonal hallway, staring at Sister Assumptia's office door, and for the first time in almost 6 years at St. Bernadette's, I knock on it. There's no answer, so I press my ear to the door. There's the low scurrying around of life coming from inside. I pushed my way in and find, well, chaos. There are towers of paper like Noella's archives, gone completely mutant. There are stacks and stacks of manila folders, each bursting with documents. There are art projects from the rudimentary still files of the first years to the complex machinations of 6 years. Final exam pieces. There are glossy graduation photographs. The brown negatives paper clipped to the side. There are hockey sticks, boxes for gum shields, duffel bags that smell like grass. And in the middle of the mess, there is Sister Assumptia standing at her desk, 4'11", and sorting hymn sheets. Wow. I need to do this in 2 sections, so I'll see you in part 2. Thank you.